how we could start farming down here in Florida, even managing our citrus. So this is what it looked like before. How about Pete the Wild Man? Get over here and tell us what he's up to.
What's growing on, man?
Yeah, what's growing on, brother?
We're basically trying to develop a system that we could scale for large-scale agriculture because we can't bring mulch to 200 acres. So we're growing our mulch here in place. And the idea being that the grass feeds the fruit trees. So grass-fed fruit trees. This is an agroforestry syntropical system, multi-species, polyculture, lots of nitrogen fixers, support plants, and also understories for quick harvest. So you're not just waiting on that fruit tree.
So with this kind of mulching system, you are increasing your moisture efficiency and your water efficiency too, right?
Huge, huge. I mean,
it's making a pretty big impact.
The idea being, you know, like even on my farm, we use no irrigation because we have these heavy mulches. So, you know, laying this grass there, cutting it and putting it up against these rows, I've come back a week later and pulled back the grass, and I was just blown away. The mycelium that had taken over with grass, just like you would with the dying mulch. So it's showing me, you know, that the soil is literally eating that stuff as food.
Wow.
You know, so when we cut this, it's sending signals to the fruit trees, telling them it's time to grow. You know, they're sending their roots out, so they're working in a symbiotic relationship.
And so the idea here is when we're growing up our grasses, we don't want to chop them up like mulch, but just lay them over.
Exactly. So we don't want to emulsify it and have nothing left. We want to keep the material bulk and in full length, laying it up against the berm so it breaks down much slower. If we were to mulch it, it would just disintegrate.
Absolutely, that makes sense. And then you're protecting some of the growth underneath that first layer, and that's slowing everything down.
Exactly.
So it's basically like a slow release fertilized system that also holds in your moisture.
Captain Planet, you got that figured out.
Wow, I like this. I like this.
If you want to walk down a row, I can show you all the different species.
Absolutely. Let's do that. We got the drone flying up here.
You know what time it is?
See, Pete's a lot less ADHD than me. He can like fly a drone and give a talk at the same time. I would have crashed
I got about 11 seconds of battery. I'm getting that final.
Let me go catch it.
It's pissed. It's pissed.
That's too cool.
We heard you.
Technology's crazy these days. Yeah, I'm interested now that we can walk through some of these. So back when I got into permaculture, this is a style of what I call alley cropping. You know, where we have our main crops that we can still get through with machinery in the middle. So it's kind of like taking permaculture and standard agriculture and blending it in a little bit to where, hey, we can still use a combine, but we can use it more efficiently.
Exactly, you know, and so for me, coming from regular agriculture, finding permaculture, studying agroforestry, and then this system is kind of mimicked after what the guys are doing in Brazil, which has been coined as centropic agriculture.
Beautiful.
This is a multi-strata, multi-species, grass-fed system. You know, so we're literally growing this material, you know, to feed the trees. We never feed the trees. We'll feed the grass. Maybe we'll run chickens over them. You know, maybe I'll top dress in biochar. Maybe I'll put some compost down on it. In relation with cutting the grass, that's what's going to feed the trees. We'll never fertilize the rows themselves.
Wow.
But it's very densely painted.
Cool.
Let me show you.
Yeah, there's so much going on in here, guys. It's unbelievable.
So the guys are in the process right now of just getting these materials organized. And, you know, we're developing in different stratas here. So citrus is native to Asia. It came from the jungle. You know, citrus is never in straight rows in an open field without all the brothers and friends and cousins. You know, when we take them out of that habitat and we put them in herbicide-ridden soils, you know, with chemical fertilizers, what do we expect to happen? Nature has found its way. So, you know, here we're putting citrus back closer to its native habitat. This was just a very small tree. And just so you guys know, this whole system's like no less than a year old. You know, we're just coming over a year. This is a very young system. Lots of nitrogen fixers, as you know, nitrogen fixers. You know, when we prune these trees, they're literally fertilizing the trees around them. They have a symbiotic relationship with soil-borne bacteria.
Absolutely.
But we literally have a plant planted every foot here. So in this short row, you know, I have citrus, interlobium, taro, cold hardy avocado, nitrogen fixing fulmengia, cassava. This is what they make tapioca out of. This can be for bread.
I grow some of that.
There was a moringa in here that died. There's more taro. Here's the grevillea. Here's another cold hardy avocado. Here's the pineapple. Here's another variety of cassava. You know, here's moringa. This can be for us for eating, the most nutritious tree in the world.
Poverty tree, as they call it
Exactly.
in Africa.
Or biomass.
Yeah.
So we don't get to eating this. We just lay it down. This is
Absolutely.
26% protein by weight. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
who doesn't want to eat that stuff? So
Yeah.
we've got
I've been getting my belly full since I got here.
We've got taro in here again. A small Jaboticaba that's never really taken off. This is Lucana, another nitrogen fixing, kind of what most people would think of as a weed tree. Another variety of cassava, grafted loquat. You know, these aren't just regular varieties of taro. This one was selected out of 10 different varieties. This one makes almost like a real like potato. So I plant this in the beginning of the season. You know, I get 25%, 15 to 25 pounds off of one plant.
Wow.
You know, so there's a lot of food in here that you don't see. One of the very important parts of a centropic agroforestry system are palm trees.
Yeah.
Palm trees are very, very high in silica, and they actually release the silica to the plants around them. So if I could grow coconuts, I'd be growing coconuts. I have the cabbage palms in here, and I think maybe they'll get harvest for swamp cabbage.
That's our Florida state tree, you know, so we're incorporating the natives too.
So more pineapples.
You know, and before I'd forget, I'd like to say something to these guys too, as far as, you know, we saw native species there, but when it comes to eating, you know, like you asked me last night, how long could I survive just on the native foods? And you can't eat cocoa plums every day of the year.
No,
you know,
there's not enough fat.
So even the indigenous peoples, you know, we took a grass and turned it into what we call corn today. You know, so we're always going to have to change a system to more benefit us, unless we want to go back to hunting and gathering and being nomadic and following buffalo herds that no longer exist.
And with population today, it's just not possible. You know, so I think that's where these perennial crops, you know, and it's a lot of education and knowledge. Like a lot of people don't realize you can take a piece of this plant, literally hammer it in the worst soil there is, and have 50, 60, 70 pounds of root in 6-7 months.
Wow.
You know, these are the type of plants we have to be growing that thrive on neglect.
Absolutely.
That's what, for me, I'm a busy guy. I don't have a lot of time to be out here babying.
And finding crops that are less dependent on phosphorus as well, you know, and something that's finite.
So, you know, another cabbage palm, taro, another variety of grafted loquat.
Yeah.
Pineapple. We grow lots of chai here on the farm. I probably have 5 different varieties. This is also known as tree spinach.
Yep.
It has to be cooked, but this is 4 times more nutritious than regular spinach.
Yeah. It's good too. I've grown some of that.
Very good.
It's good.
This is another
Tastes
one.
like collard greens.
I think it's delicious. It's really nice in a soup. You know, this is another one that I could take a cutting and lay on the ground and it'll survive for a month. I mean, that's a tough plant. Like, tell me another spinach plant you can cut and lay on the ground and come back and it'll even be alive in a day.
That's
you know, much less a month it'll regrow.
Right.
So plants are tough.
Yeah, they
you know,
are.
pineapple under here again, cassava, taro. You know, and then once again we're coming back to the interlobium. This is probably my favorite nitrogen fixer in the system. When I prune this, the deepness in green in the grass and the trees around it, it's like you sprayed fertilizer out here. I mean, it's unbelievable, you know. And
and for those that don't know, these nitrogen fixing plants and trees like this, what they're doing is taking atmospheric nitrogen, and they're not necessarily doing it, but the micro homies that live in their roots, they're able to basically transfer atmospheric nitrogen into usable nitrogen for the plants.
Exactly.
And not a lot of plants are cool enough to have that feature, so that's why he's got these in here.
They're key to a system, you know, and like everything that we do, you know, you
growing
look at
your
nature,
fertilizer.
she's very diverse. You know, she's not straight rows of one species. She's, you know, there's nitrogen fixers, there's support plants, there's hardwoods, you know, we've got all these different species working together. And that's kind of like what we're trying to do here, is design a system that we can take to scale, multi-species, that's profitable for a farmer, that doesn't require herbicides and chemicals.
Absolutely. This is too cool, Pete.
Grevillea, cassava, taro, banana, cassava, mulberry, taro.
Gotta love mulberry.
Mimosa julibressin, banana, cassava, moringa, taro, mulberry, Lucana, cassava, Suriname cherry. You know, so just going down that little row, I probably have 65 different plants. And, you know, maybe as this system evolves, things get a little bigger, we cull out some of these smaller items as we're bringing shade to the floor.
Absolutely.
But you can design your system in so many different ways, you know, so many different levels or stratas, as they would call it with centropic agriculture.
It's absolutely amazing. You know, and like we were talking last night, like mimosa, for example, gets a really bad rap because it's invasive, but it's not invasive because a bird eats the seed and then it poops it out everywhere. It's invasive because it's not maintained and managed correctly.
Exactly.
As far as in a way that Pete's using it right here, it's not invasive, because if he lets it get invasive, it ruins the whole point of his agricultural goal here.
The whole idea is we're coppicing them before they're even setting out any seeds. You know, this way we're not spreading that seed around the neighborhood. And you know, to me, you know, these so-called invasives, they're the hardest workers in the system. You know, they're out here busting their butt. You know, these are the plants that come up in the middle of an open field after you clear cut an area. You know, and they're the first things to pop up out there because they're so tough they can handle those crappy conditions. You know, they're out there fixing the soil.
Absolutely.
You know,
just like Lake Okeechobee and the water hyacinth, you could use that to filter the water as you're mechanically harvesting, like we're doing behind the scenes right now. But it's that same thing, taking what we see as a problem, turning it into a solution.
That's what they say with permaculture. The problem is the solution.
Absolutely.
You know?
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
Yeah, brother.
brother.